Hello and welcome. I have you very precariously balanced over by the window on the radiator, and I'm like almost certain you're going to fall down. But I am about to go through some of the bits and pieces that I'm just sort of putting aside, preparing for postpartum. And I thought that it would be fun to bring you along with me and just talk about some of the bits and pieces of the things that I am both doing and not doing, and just show you as I pull things out. A couple of these bits and pieces I have bought, a couple of them I'm just like pulling out from previous births, from just attending births myself, bits and pieces that are kind of in my toolkit. And yeah, one of the things that I want to start with was how I'm preparing for. Did I bring up any of the things? No, I didn't, but it's just in my head. Preparing for post birth after pains. For me, they have gotten remotely more intense after each birth. So, if those of you who don't know already, I have a whole separate video on this. But after we give birth, after that placenta is birthed, we work quite hard to bring our uterus back down to size for it to clamp down essentially, so that it can stop bleeding at the site of where the placenta has come away. Very normal to expect our bodies to have almost like early labor pains or period type cramps, and typically the more babies you have, the more intense they can be because our body has to work that bit harder. Usually you will feel them when you are nursing your baby or when you are pumping, and outside of that, if you are snuggling your baby, if you are having skin to skin with your baby, maybe smelling your baby's head, giving your baby a bottle, having that nice boost of oxytocin really encourages that bleeding to slow down and that clamping to take place. For me, the things that have really helped: warmth. So whether that is a heat pack on my tummy, a warming blanket, a hot water bottle, warm water and drinks, so warm teas, warm soups and broths and things like that, so nothing too cold. And also I will continue to use my TENS machine. So if they get particularly bad, I will pop them onto my lower back, and use that on a kind of like a low setting, sort of a low buzzing intensity on my lower back. So that's been really helpful. So for that, I have my TENS machine put out. So that's also for like birth purposes and postnatally. And then I also have started making some teas, which I might show you later about the different combinations. I've got one which is sort of a calming postnatal tea, and then I've got one that's sort of a blood builder. So those are the two little like herbal tea combinations that I'm going to be showing you and sipping on postnatally. Okay, let's talk about bleeding. So with my last two births, I did first with my combination. I did a combination of, the disposable underwear and pads. And for me, I didn't love either of those. With the pull-up things, I found they were sweaty, I found they were uncomfortable, I didn't like the fact that I couldn't observe my bleeding that well, and I found that changing them out was just that little bit more cumbersome. You have to get all the way out, you have to step out of them, getting down to put them on and pull them up again was a little bit more difficult, whereas and with the pads, I didn't like that sort of synthetic feeling. Particularly if you have any tearing, you want to be really mindful of two things. There's a plastic backing on that. That's creating a sort of a warm, sweaty breeding ground for bacteria. But also, if we are looking at the sort of woven fabric of the pad, if there's any sort of open textured weaving, it can get caught on sort of hairs, healing tissue, things like that. So the ones that I love are the ones from Natracare, because not only are they non-plastic, so they're not that kind of sweaty, they have a nice soft woven material, but they also are unscented. You will be surprised by how many postpartum period products are scented and perfumed. Your vagina does not just need to smell like anything else other than a vagina. So for me, that was really, really important. So this time round, in knowing that, I will be getting one pack of those Natracare maternity pads. And then outside of that, I will be free bleeding onto my bed with both incontinence sheets, and I've also got these bad boys, which I have got as a part of my birth toolkit. But it's just it is a reusable tux pad, so it's got sort of a waterproof layer, and I actually will be using this both in my birth if I'm planning on excuse me oh dear it's hay fever season. So as a part of my birth, sort of being able to, I've got two massive ones, being able to lean up on this comfortably and know that I'm not going to make a mess of either the bed or the sofa. So these are really nice, and then I will probably add an incontinence sheet or two to the bed. If you can't get incontinence sheets or can't access them readily, you can just get puppy pads, puppy training pads from your local pet store or shop, and they do the same thing. But these are obviously really nice because they can be quite expensive, and I will reuse these both in births, but they can also be nice if you're doing sort of nighttime potty training with your little one. So that's been really helpful, and my plan is to use a combination of those natural care pads, free bleeding, so just allowing myself to bleed as I'm resting, as I'm feeding my babies, onto these sheets, with sort of keeping them nice and fresh, but also like a daily shower to just sort of really keep everything nice and clean. And then as things get lighter, I'm going to use my period undies, which I think mine are from Moddy Body. Perhaps that's the name, but I really love them. They're like really nice, high-waisted, supportive, comfortable, and I actually have found that with literally the difference between the boys' postpartum experiences, I had such minimal bleeding after Archer when I lay in for like a week or two. So I just stayed in bed. I stayed in the house for at least a month. I really rested, and I feel like my bleeding stopped around 6 days. Whereas with Atticus, I remember still bleeding and being in the gym, which is so gross. So I was like bleeding up until like 6 weeks. So resting a lot more this time, and I have a real plan for how that's gonna look. Other things that I have gotten: some fresh sheets, because who doesn't want some fresh sheets after they've given birth and they're feeling sticky and they're sort of postpartum. Currently we have a sort of super king sized bed set up, which we'll be taking down off the frame and putting back into a floor bed, but we only have one set of sheets. And so typically we just, because I'm quite a minimal person, we will wash them, dry them the same day and put them back on again, because I don't want to be filling this big closet here is like our linen closet, and I don't want to be filling that with loads and loads of stuff. So this time round I've actually bought a second set, so I'll just wash these and have these ready to go so that I can change my sheets more frequently and it not be like a stressy thing for me to be like waiting for them to wash and dry. So that is one thing. Got little kids going past. The next thing is actually a surprise, and this is something that I plan on putting up maybe as like an early labor job. But this is some gymnastics rings. These are literally like the gymnastics rings that you would see the guys use in the Olympics, and I plan on hanging these in the boys' playroom. This is both to keep them entertained during labor, although I assume that if it's a daytime birth they'll just be playing in the garden or hanging out with daddy. However, I feel like one of my biggest worries was like, it always feels really good for me to have my babies close. It's what feels best for me. For some people it might be more supportive for you to have them off doing more play dates and playground dates, and have maybe a childminder on board. But for me, it's a time, that sort of postnatal time is a time for us to all find our groove with another baby, find our groove with another child in our home, how that is going to look. And I want them to see as well, like particularly with Jess, who's 12, I want to see them to see what it looks like really minding somebody postnatally, and see how they can learn from that, and how they can later in life, support their wives and partners for the boys, as well as getting to know their sibling, and spending that time really cozied up at home feels really supportive to me as well. And my boys are really busy. They are rambunctious. They like to be outside doing jobs, doing things. Generally we will do like at least one like social outing per day as well. So this is going to be a really nice way for them to get their wiggles out, but a slightly not necessarily like your normal postpartum essential. The other like random postpartum thing that I got last time is I set up a hammock in our sort of downstairs playroom. It's actually like a sort of big hallway that's between our sitting room and our kitchen, so it probably was like a formal dining room back in the day, but we use it as a playroom, and it means that we can all be together. I can snuggle up with the baby, I can lie in it with the boys and read to them, they can swing from it and pretend that they're butterflies, whatever it might be, but it's really nice, a really nice addition to have in our home. So that was a funny little one. The next thing that I have got, which is actually again a little bit more of a random thing, but it's a massive box for me to put all of baby girl's like memory things in. So I found like that I got this, I've got one for each of them. The boys have their ones, Jess has her one. They're all nearly full to the brim at this point, so I do need to go through them and cull them out a little bit. But this is for like umbilical cord ties. If you're having hospital birth, it would be for like hospital bracelets, for first teeth, for first curls, for pregnancy tests and things like that. I also keep a diary for each one of my babies during the pregnancy with them, for my birth experience with them, postnatal experience with them, and then like any big things, milestones that happen. So this would be the place where something like that goes, but I only picked that up the other day, and I thought, hi baby, that's something that would be worthwhile mentioning, because you guys might want to get something like that too. Go on back out to daddy, go get dressed. Yeah, go on, see you in a minute. The boys are going to have some daddy time this morning. The next thing that I picked up is another random one, and that is some of these massive IKEA sandwich bags. As you can tell, we went to IKEA the other day and did a little bit of a run. I got like the sheets there, the boxes there, and these massive, how big are these? They're huge. 6 litre, like they're massive. 6 litre, that can't even be right. That's massive. Possibly so. So when we were thinking about postpartum prep, we were thinking, okay, so one of the big purchases that we're going to get is like a chest freezer. I'm now humming and hawing about a chest freezer and getting just a second freezer, because I'm a very small person. I'm only just touching 5 foot, and I don't think I'd actually be able to reach the bottom of a chest freezer. So we're going to get just, I guess, a normal second freezer and fill it. And when we were thinking about how we were going to fill it, we were going through like filling our trolley with those beautiful glass Tupperware containers, and I was like, okay, do I need this many outside of postpartum? And while I don't love storing food in plastic, I was thinking, okay, the majority of the foods that we're going to be making are casseroles, soups, dals, curries, stews, things that can be stored flat in a plastic bag and then just defrosted as we need them. So this is something that I've gotten this time round, and I plan on, it's 4 litres, like 4.5 litres, and I plan on filling every single one of these. We're going to do a day with our friends, just kind of having like a real community feel, making loads and loads of food. And that's going to feel really nice. I can't wait to do that. But this is the way that I've chosen to store them this time round. I will probably do some more Tupperware containers and things like that as well. And we also have a meal train that's set up amongst our friends group. We almost always carry postnatal mummas for about 2 weeks, which is so lovely. And yeah, so that was something else we bought. Another thing for sort of supporting me, and I will show you maybe the recipes, or I'll leave them maybe down below, those recipes for those postnatal teas. But I've also got this electrolyte drink mix. This is from Element. I've already dipped into these a little bit. This is the grapefruit flavour. I would say it's one of my favourites. I also really like the raspberry one. But it is a little bit salty, and the idea with this is that it replaces all of that sodium, potassium, magnesium that is depleted from our bodies both during pregnancy, breastfeeding, postpartum, in times of stress. And so it's like a real adrenal cocktail to support our bodies in those times. I do think alongside drinking my glass of beetroot juice, it's really supported me in having literally 0 pregnancy symptoms, no swelling, no blood pressure issues. My energy has also been really good, and I think that's definitely part of this, because it really helps you to fire on all cylinders and helps support kind of adrenal fatigue and things like that. So that's been really nice, and my plan is to have something beside me at all times to drink on, because one of my sort of postnatal things is that I get really, really thirsty. And with breastfeeding, you have like this little release of oxytocin as you feed, and with that release of oxytocin, you can feel extreme thirst. Like I'm, you know, your mouth is like the Sahara Desert instantaneously. So having these on hand means not only am I not having naked water, but it's going to encourage me to drink more. So that's really nice. Other random things that I got. These I actually got from Dunnes Stores yesterday. Two things left? Two things left. So, black underwear. If you know, you know. I don't particularly want to stain my lovely white sheets. And I also want to feel like well supported. So these are like the full length. They are a lace top cotton full brief. And these are in a size 14. So I'm normally like a size 10 to 12. So I always go up a size. I want them to be like full length, really supportive, up over the belly button. I want them to be really comfortable. And I'm actually thinking of getting a second pack of these because I feel like a 5-pack is nearly not enough. But that's a good start. And the other thing that I got, which, let me just see if I'm missing anything, but the other thing that I got was this beautiful dressing gown, because I plan on spending very little time with clothes on in the first month, mostly skin to skin with baby like snuggled in on my chest. But look how pretty this is. So expect to see lots of videos and Instagram clips with me wearing this. I went for this one over like a I went for this one over a more like silky version, because I feel like with newborn sweat, with postpartum sweats, this is going to be really nice. This is pure cotton. Very excited to wear this. And I encourage you to get something like that too, that you can feel really comfy in. Other than that, I've got my cleaner lined up. She's going to come out and do like a sort of trial run next week, which is exciting. And I'm considering getting a postpartum doula, which I've never had before, but maybe let me know your experiences below. I have done some work as a postpartum doula, but generally it's only with my birth clients now, because I just don't have the capacity to do that well and with the intention and the time that I want. So let me know your experiences down below. Let me know what your postpartum essentials have been. And I will try and leave links to as many of these things as I can down below.